Hi, I'm Anton from Stephen, Minnesota. I was actually graduated in Thief River, but I came to Stephen where I taught for 36 years, Stephen and Argyle. And my basic training experiences, it was kind of unique because my brother-in-law, or my cousin I should say, talked me into joining the Moorhead Guard when I was going to Moorhead College. And I was in there for 6 years. First we took off by plane from Fargo down to Moorhead, or down to Minneapolis. In Minneapolis it was 75 degrees, and we arrived in St. Louis where it was 104 degrees, I believe it was.
What month was that, I remember?
That was July, I believe. And from there we went by Ozark Airlines to Fort Leonard Wood, where I first started basic training. And we came in a cattle truck. And in the cattle truck they would say, you know, where are you from? And I said, Thief River Falls. And they said, only queers and steers live in Thief River Falls. Which one are you? You know, just like officer and a gentleman. And I was at Fort Leonard Wood for my first basic in AIT, or for my basic in AIT, my first AIT.
And what was basic like for you?
Basic was interesting because you always felt that you were going to get recycled. And what that means is that you start over. And you didn't want to do that. And you didn't want them to know your name. Because if they learned your name, then you were on the top of their list. And I know the first day that I got over to my building, you know, not my 0 week. We have what we call a 0 week, and you know, that's where they give you your uniform, cut your hair, and different things on that idea. But when I got to my first deployment, or not deployment, but C company, I met the drill sergeant, and I did not say drill sergeant. And he said, drop and do push-ups until I'm tired. Now I did that with one kid in school one time. I said that, you know, he was running down the hallway. And I said, okay, I want you to walk until I get tired. And he walked about 3-4 times up and down the hall, and then he came back and said, if you're going to, if I'm gonna be walking up and down the hallway, how are you gonna get tired? And I thought, holy man, I never even thought about that when I was talking to the drill sergeant.
And you wouldn't want to do that anyway.
No, you wouldn't want to do that. And I was with C Company in Fort Leonard Wood. And then my first AIT, I was with Wheeled Vehicle Mechanic.
We're going back to basic training. What did you do? Were you in barracks or?
We were in barracks.
What kind of wood or brick?
No, they were brick.
Okay.
They were nice buildings. The only thing is, they said it's like Little Germany or whatever because the weather was so interesting. It either got really, really hot or really, really cold. So I'd drink cups of ice. I wasn't into beer at that time.
So what did you do during basic training?
A lot of marching, and of course, you know, you didn't volunteer for anything because they said how many can drive, you know, or drive a deuce and a half. I didn't raise my hand for that because I figured you'd be doing a wheelbarrow. You know, so they kind of had their way that way. But running, exercising, shooting, we had bivouac. We, you know, where it's kind of like a pretend army situation where, you know, you can only give your name, rank, and serial number. They put you through some different tests and so forth.
Did you have any other regular Army people going through the same time as you?
Yes.
And did you feel you were treated any different?
No. No, I felt I was treated the same. And the Army people, they knew they were going to Vietnam, which was a real tough time at that time. And one night I know that there were some guys that came into the room, and I don't know what this guy had done, but they gave him what they call a blanket party. And they put a blanket over his head and started hitting him. You know, and it just, I woke up and stayed awake quite a while that night. because I didn't know if they're coming for me or not. But when it got really, really hot, then we would sit in the barracks.
Did you go anywhere during basic training, or?
No.
No.
Well, we went, I shouldn't say that. We got to go to a St. Louis baseball game. You had to dress in your greens, and we sat at the top of the stadium looking down. And that's the only way I got to St. Louis, but I have been to St. Louis now with, with our baseball tours.
Right.
And then we had AIT at Fort Leonard Wood.
So it was seamless? You just went from basic training right into AIT?
I think we got a week off, if I remember right. We got to fly home and basically, I think we went by bus part of the way because it was like an 18-hour trip by bus. From, I think it was St. Louis to Minneapolis. We went by plane to St. Louis and then they took bus. And then we found out while we were at AIT and working on trucks and Jeeps and so forth that we were going to be going to Fort Knox for tank.
What was your MOS? What were you being trained for?
It was motor vehicle mechanic.
Okay.
And then they decided to throw us in on track. So then we went for tank mechanic to Fort Leonard Wood for another AIT. So I had a double AIT.
So how long was the first AIT?
I'm trying to think.
A couple months, or?
It was a couple months. I thought it was longer than, well, yeah, I suppose it would have been a couple months.
And then
Yeah, because like 8 weeks or something on that idea.
And then Fort Knox, and
It was about the same.
and
I believe I went in July and I got out in January.
okay, so about 7 months.
Yeah. And that was 73 that I got out.
When you say got out, went home.
Went home. Yep.
But
70
Fort Knox, you trained to be trained on tanks.
We got to drive tanks and APCs and, do mechanic work,
Were they gas or diesel?
diesel.
Everything was diesel?
Right.
So you're a diesel mechanic.
I was, but I wouldn't trust me. I would not go to me for diesel. I worked at gas stations most of my life, other than a grocery store, and changed oil and did tires and stuff like that. Spark plugs. Nowadays I don't think I could do that kind of stuff because everything's so involved.
So after Fort Knox, you came home again?
Came home, and then we were stationed in Moorhead with the Moorhead group. Detroit Lakes was we were part of Detroit Lakes because they were a motor vehicle.
Okay. And
I
so
drive a deuce and a half down to Randall to Camp Ripley.
okay, you drove a deuce and a half to Camp
Yes.
Ripley? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but so you got home, you went back to school, or?
Yes, I went back for my degree and so forth in elementary education.
Where at?
Moorhead State,
Moorhead State.
yes.
And while you were there, you were spent weekends, 1 weekend a month drilling.
Yep, 1 weekend a month drilling and then 2 weeks during the summer for Camp Ripley.
Okay.
One time I had to go with another group because I couldn't make that time period because of teaching, I believe it was. So then I went down to a cities group. I can't think of which one right now.
So you graduated from college,
Yes,
still in
still in guard,
guard duty.
and then came home, or we got a home in Stephen rather because I got a job here. And so I drive from Stephen down to Moorhead for our weekends.
You couldn't transfer somewhere closer, or?
I maybe could have, but at the time it didn't bother me, because I knew a lot of the guys there and stuff, and I was with Johnny Holmes, and Johnny Holmes was actually a medic. And it was kind of fun, because actually what happened later.
The singer Johnny Holmes?
Pardon me?
The singer Johnny
Yes.
Holmes?
Yes. Yeah, the one out of Fargo. I think he was a good basketball player and he was a singer. We met him again down at Valley Fair, and we had my father-in-law and mother-in-law with, and he went up into the stands and got them to dance and so forth. So it was kind of fun. And then he'd always sing in the cafeteria, because what happened later is that I became a cook, because there wasn't quite as much stuff to do with wheel vehicle mechanic
On the weekends
on
or
the weekends.
weekend meetings? Okay.
Yeah, and then Camp Ripley too. I'd be a cook,
Okay.
but it wasn't right away as a wheel vehicle mechanic to begin with.
Okay. So you spent 6 years.
Yes.
In those, every summer to 2 week, you went to Camp Ripley then?
Camp Ripley, or yeah, it was Camp Ripley each time. It just was with a different group one time. When I was leaving, they were going to Alaska. You know, we learned kind of how to ski, you know, but you know what the Army skis are like. They're almost like doors. So I probably wasn't real athletic that way.
So they were going to go, the next
They
summer
were gonna
camp
go
was
to
going to be
Alaska.
in Alaska, and you missed out on that?
I missed out on that.
You're just a lucky guy, aren't you?
I don't know, it would have been kind of fun to go up there, but it would have been cold. I
No,
can imagine.
that's what I mean.
Yes, it would have been cold.
Yeah, yeah. So you got home, you got out of the guard, you're teaching here in Stephen,
Yeah,
and
we'd drive back and forth to Moorhead. And I had relatives in Moorhead, which worked really nice, because when I went to basic training, I had cousins down there that took care of my wife. You know, plus there was Lauren Nowaski and Cheryl Nowaski were down there at that time, and Ellen could visit with them.
good.
You know, so that worked out good.
I graduated with Lauren.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Okay.
So you graduated in '69 then too?
right.
Okay,
And,
which I did.
So,
And now
So-
70 years old.
yeah, right. So you're out of National Guard now. Is there anything you wish you'd have done different during your career in the military?
Well, I had a real low draft number, so I didn't have a whole lot of chance. I mean, when we were at Camp Ripley, sometimes we would go golfing. We'd go down to Perez, P-I-E-R-Z or whatever, and we'd go golfing, you know, just 4 or 5 of us.
When you say
so-
draft number, you meant lottery number?
Lottery number,
Yeah. So
yes,
you remember what it was?
119 or something.
I thought that was real low.
Yeah,
So,
you know, so I decided to do that because I was going for an art major at Moorhead State and I was not doing very well. So I figured the next step would be Army.
yeah.
Not that I didn't want to help out the Army, but it just, I don't hunt, I don't, you know.
Right.
I was shooting at basic training one time at the Silhouettes. And this isn't probably a good thing to say, but I could not hit the target. The drill sergeant came over and took some bullets and put it in my gun and he shot, so I became a marksman. So you wouldn't want to be with me if you were in the Army on the other side. But that was kind of an experience.
You don't hear everybody admitting to that.
Yeah. Well, then when I went back to Moorhead, I got my eyes tested and I got glasses. I don't know why the military didn't see that, but their
There's a lot of things they didn't see back
their tests were not quite, you know, like hold up 2 fingers. How many fingers are you holding up?
then. Right.
You know, so
So you got out. How many years you been teaching here in Stephen?
36, 27 in Stephen and 9 in Argyle.
And do you do anything besides that? I know you travel with.
Well, we do the bus trips, the baseball trips, and so forth. I'm a Lions member since 1976, and I was on the ambulance for 25 years, and I coached summer rec for 32, and had the swimming pool for a while even the new one was being built. And let's see, golfing, yeah, as a golf coach. And Tim and I won the division a few times, a couple times, 3 times, somewhere in there.
Didn't you manage the golf course for a
I
while?
managed a golf course for about 2 to 4 years, somewhere in there.
So you've been a busy guy.
Yeah. Well, it was fun. You know, it was fun with baseball, And we actually had numbers until I gave it up, and then the numbers really drifted down because the population, you know.
Yep.
Kind of like this year where we have 13 kids on the football team, you know. My
Yeah.
first year I had baseball, I had 125 kids. And then I handled that, and then the next year I got a helper. You know, I would get Tim Storby to come and up for me, you know, or Lance Carlson.
Good.
You know, so.
Is there anything else in your military career you'd like to add, or?
Yes, I was at Camp Ripley one time, or one year, and I don't remember when it was. I'm not sure on the year, but I was driving the chow truck around along with Jerry Stordahl, and he was on my right-hand side, and there was a lieutenant that threw a simulator behind my head, and when it blasted off, it perforated both my eardrums, so I have hearing aids in both ears, and my buddy that was riding with me had perforated his left ear, and it broke the board in the back of the pickup and singed my field jacket and hair, and you know, it was like a big firecracker. You know,
When you say simulator, what was it?
It's about like this, supposedly, and about like this. I think they call it was like a grenade, you know, in a sense. But they called it a simulator. And I don't know, you know, what happened after that, because my ears were ringing so bad that, you know, I had to cover my ears and so forth, and, you know, and we were brought back to camp, and then we were taken to Fargo right away, and we saw Dr. Nagel, and he explained it to me like, what you do is you take a piece of paper and you push a hole in it, and you take a crochet hook or something and pull from the back of that and pull it into place, and then you glue it. You know, so I have hearing loss.
Wow.
I have tinnitus all the time, you know, where it's ringing all the time.
There's ringing all the time?
Yes. Especially when it's quiet.
Oh,
You know, and then I've went through I don't know how many pairs of hearing aids. The Army's been really good as far as supplying hearing aids and glasses and so forth. You know,
so
that's
you
been
did
going-
get some disability from it?
And I get some disability. I get 10%.
Okay.
But I filed a claim now, hoping to get a little more because of my hearing loss.
Sure.
They said I never had any hearing loss, but actually on the paper there, you know, the Brett
Brandon?
Brandon, he saw on my paper when I was, I can't think, when you're done, you know, that there was hearing loss.
Or your DD 214?
Yeah.
On your military discharge papers?
Right. Yeah, there was hearing loss.
Yeah.
And so, and actually I never went to Washington DC or Minneapolis or anything on that idea to, you know, check for my hearing loss because I was student teaching at the time. So when I started to be affected in teaching, you know, where I couldn't hear very well and so forth, and I had the kids keep repeating, and they say, never mind then, you know. And about 96, I think it was, I went in and I got a little bit of back pay from 73 or 74, somewhere in there. And they gave me hearing aids,
Good,
you know, down at Fargo VA,
good.
you know.
And have gotten much better over the years.
Yes, actually, because of choice and so forth, the last few times that I've went all true. And then if all true, the one year I couldn't get all true because I didn't have the choice program at that time. So what I did was I went to the Grand Forks VA.
Yep, I think it's improved it's community care now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and they, you know, put them in and, you know, got them so they worked and so forth. And now I go to all true, which is even handier.
Good. Anything else you want to add, Al?
It's an interesting experience. I didn't have to deal with war or anything, and I know that my father-in-law, Wally Vodley, you know, he actually had to go home for Ellen's birth And his platoon was almost wiped out. You
In
know, when
Germany.
he was heading in Germany.
Yeah.
You know, when they came across in boats.
Yep,
So he was lucky. He was one of the lucky ones. There weren't many that were living after that. You
right.
know, in his group.
Yep. So a lot of family
And
history.
now he's 93.
Now he's what?
He's 93 years old.
93 years old, and he's
Yeah,
still alive.
Still alive.
Very good. Very good.
We're trying taking his car away now, but
Good luck.
he still lives at home. He escaped from his group home. He didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
But of course, during the COVID, you know, nobody could come and visit him and so forth.
Right.
He could stand outside the window.
Yep.
You know.
Well, Al, you're well respected in the community and the area, and I thank you for doing this interview, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.